All right, let's just jump right in. We need to talk about the single greatest, most unbelievable winning streak in the history of the universe. And here's the thing, it's yours.
Yeah, that's right. You being here right now isn't some accident. It's a victory. You are the grand prize at the end of a massive, completely unbroken chain of people who simply refuse to die. Just think about it. If even one of them, just one single person in that line, had tripped at the wrong moment or caught a bad flu, you wouldn't exist. You'd be a cosmic what if. So let's think of your family history as the ultimate video game, a brutal, unforgiving survival game with no extra lives. And every single one of your ancestors, they beat their level. So you ready to see what they had to get through just to get you here?
And we're starting with a big one. I mean, this is the moment the planet itself seemed to just give up on the whole human experiment.
Okay, so about 74,000 years ago, this super-volcano called Toba just explodes. And we're talking a force that is almost impossible for us to even wrap our heads around today. This wasn't just a bad winter. It blasted so much ash into the sky that it literally switched off the sun. And that one event kicked off this insane domino effect. For nearly a decade, the entire world was plunged into a volcanic winter. Global temperatures just crashed. Plants withered, animals starved, whole ecosystems just collapsed. For the few humans scattered around, it was a full-blown apocalypse.
And this is the number that should really stop you in your tracks. Scientists believe the entire human population on Earth was crushed down to fewer than 3,000 people. That's it. This created what's called a genetic bottleneck, which means that every single person alive today is descended from this tiny, unbelievably tough group of survivors. You carry their echo.
So how on earth did they do it? Well, your ancestor, that one specific person shivering in the dark, they didn't quit. They were just too stubborn. They huddled in some damp cave, maybe chewed on a piece of leather, and just endured. You're here because they were simply too resilient for the universe to kill. All right, let's fast forward thousands and thousands of years. The planet is more stable, but a new threat is bubbling up. Turns out, the biggest danger to humanity is now humanity. So back in the 13th and 14th centuries, your bloodline was fighting a war on two completely different fronts. One was this invisible biological wildfire that you couldn't see or fight. The other was the largest, most brutal land empire in human history. The Black Death was basically a lottery of death. If you lived in a village back then, your odds of seeing the next year were pretty much a coin flip. People genuinely thought the air itself was poisonous. They were afraid to even breathe. The scale of it was just terrifying. And at the exact same time, the Mongol invasions were just carving a path of total destruction across Asia and Europe. They killed an estimated 10% of the entire world's population. It was this unbelievable one-two punch of plague and warfare, all at once. And the Mongol strategy was just brutal efficiency. Their horse archers could hit a target from 300 yards away while riding at a full gallop. They didn't just conquer cities, they erased them. And if you were lucky enough to survive, your reward was to be forced to march in front of their army into the next battle as a human shield. What a terrifying time to be alive. But hey, not every threat was a massive, cataclysmic boss battle. Some levels are just a war of attrition. For your medieval ancestors, the most relentless enemy was simply Tuesday. The daily grind was its own kind of miserable battle.
Forget about farm to table. For most people, every single meal was a scoop from the same pot of something called pottage. Imagine a stew that's just never emptied. It's perpetually simmering. Day after day, they toss in whatever they could find. Old grains, tough roots, maybe a stray bean. And you'd probably break your teeth on the pebbles that fell in. That stew was often older than the person eating it.
And home? Well, home was a single room with a packed dirt floor. And you shared it with your entire family. Oh, and the livestock, for warmth. Yep, chickens, goats, maybe a pig, all sleeping right there beside you. And with no chimney, the room was just permanently thick with stinging wood smoke that burned your lungs. Privacy? That wasn't even a concept. And what if you got sick? You didn't see a doctor. You saw the local guy who also cut hair and sharpened knives. And his go-to cure for just about everything was draining your bad blood with a rusty blade or maybe covering you in leeches. A lot of the time, the cure was way, way deadlier than the disease. So, After all of that, after the volcanoes, the plagues, the wars, and the daily misery, we get to the final level. We get to the prize. Now, seriously, think about it. When your ancestor was huddled in that freezing cave, wondering if the sun would ever come back, they were fighting for a future they could not possibly imagine. They were fighting for you. When your great times 20 grandparents somehow managed to dodge the Black Death while half their village just disappeared, that wasn't just luck. That was a win. That was a victory that made your life possible.
And even more recently, maybe an ancestor survived a famine, packed their entire life into a single trunk, and crossed an ocean on some rickety ship. They had every single reason to give up, but they held on for a future they would never even get to see. For you.
This is the bottom line. You carry the DNA of the survivors, the winners, the ones who were too tough, too stubborn, or maybe just too lucky to stay down. The universe threw everything it had at your family tree, and your family tree is still standing. So, when life feels tough, just remember that unbroken chain of absolute survival that led directly to you. You aren't just a person, you are a living, breathing, winning streak. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it?